I'm Erin Watson, and this is the teaching segment of my interview, and I'm going to review how to use a semicolon. Now we're going to learn how to use a semicolon. When you're looking to identify the right use of a semicolon on your test, you're going to want to look to make sure that the semicolon is separating two independent clauses. Do you know what an independent clause is?
No.
Okay, well, when you're looking to see if something is an independent clause, you're going to want to make sure that it's a complete sentence that can stand on its own.
Okay.
So when you see a semicolon, it should be separating two complete sentences. Do you feel comfortable with that?
I feel like I can try it.
Okay, well, remember that on the test, when you're looking for an independent clause or for the right use of a semicolon, you're not going to have to identify, you're not going to have to give a definition for an independent clause or for a semicolon. You're just going to have to be able to identify the proper use of a semicolon and whether or not something is an independent clause. So hopefully that'll make you feel a little bit more comfortable with them. How about if we go over some of these examples from the book?
Okay.
Let's look at these first two sentences. We know that the use of the semicolon in these sentences is correct. So how about if you read that first sentence out loud to me and tell me why you think that semicolon is used correctly?
Whooping cranes are an endangered species. They are unlikely to survive if we continue to pollute their habitat. Those both seem like they're independent clauses?
Right, okay. Whooping cranes are an endangered species, and they are unlikely to survive if we continue to pollute their habitat are both complete sentences. So it's correct if we separate them with a semicolon. Let's look at this next example. I will not be at school on Friday. However, I can make up the test before classes on Monday morning.
I will not be at school on Friday, and however, I can make up the test before classes on Monday morning. Can both stand on their own like independent clauses?
Right, good. They're both complete sentences. And even though this sentence is a little different because it starts with however, that sentence can still stand on its own as a complete sentence. So it's right to separate them both with a semicolon. Okay, let's look at this next example. We know that the sentence is incorrect. So how about if you read it out loud and tell me what you think might be wrong with the sentence?
The Nobel Foundation was established in 1900, and since then, it has awarded prizes for achievements in both literature and science.
Okay, what about that sentence seems like it could be wrong to you?
Does it have something to do with the and in bold?
Good! It does have something to do with the and. The and is a conjunction, and so when you use a conjunction, it pretty much indicates that you're separating an incomplete clause from an independent clause. So what could we do to make this sentence a little better?
Could we take out the and?
Good! We could take out the and then these would both be complete clauses that could stand on their own, and then it would be right to separate them with a semicolon. But there's something else we could do too in this example.
Well, the semicolon is the other problem.
Right. So what could we do with the semicolon?
Could we change that into another, like a comma?
Good! We could change it into a comma, because then it separates an independent clause from an incomplete clause with the conjunction, which is a correct way to use it.
Okay.
Let's look at this last example. Do you want to read that one out loud too?
Because farm prices have dropped so dramatically, the traditional American family farm is in danger of disappearing.
Okay, what about that sentence seems like it could be wrong to you?
Both these sentences seem really linked to each other. They seem like, the first sentence seems like it needs the second to be complete.
Good, you're right. So the second sentence is an independent clause, but the first sentence can't stand on its own. So it isn't right to use a semicolon to connect them. What could we do to make the sentence better?
Like last time, we could add a comma.
Good, that's the only way to make this sentence correct. We could replace a semicolon with a comma. Good job. Now let's move on to these exercises where you're going to have to tell on your own if the sentence is correct or not. How about if you read that first one aloud and tell me if you think if it's a good use of a semicolon or not?
Without being aware of it, Cassie dropped her wallet, which contained about $20, on the bus.
Okay.
That seems like it needs a solution like the last sentence. It seems like you just have to make that a comma.
Make the semicolon a comma? How come? What is wrong with the two clauses it separates?
Well, Cassie dropped her wallet, which contained about $20 on the bus, is independent.
Right, that's a complete sentence.
But without being aware of it is related and dependent.
Good job. So without being aware of it isn't a complete sentence, even though Cassie dropped her wallet, which contained about $20 on the bus, is. So you still can't separate them with a semicolon. You should use a comma. Good job. How about if you read out that last one out loud and tell me if you think that that's a correct use or not?
Brian and his sister remained close even though they lived in different states. They wrote each other emails at least once a week. That sentence seems fine. To me, it seems whooping crane status.
Good. You're right. So why do you think that that's a correct use of the semicolon? You said it reminds you of these other examples up here.
Like the whooping crane one, it seems like both of them could stand independently on their own, but they're related.
Good job. So Brian and his sister remained close, even though they lived in different states. And they wrote each other emails at least once a week, are both complete sentences, so they can be separated with a semicolon.